Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and today we're going to talk about how to escape denial. This was actually a question one of you submitted on one of my community posts. I believe that was Magda. Thank you, Magda, for asking this. Denial. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones because it's the gatekeeper, so to speak, to being able to open up the door to accepting who you are and really moving forward in a way that's expansive. So, denial is a funny thing because it's invisible. Like if you knew that you were in denial, then you wouldn't be able to deny it anymore. Or so I think you might think. You may actually know that you're in denial, but the mere concept of accepting that you're in denial may be so earth-shattering to your sense of self, to your ego, that it may feel like complete obliteration of who you are. And that surpasses the fear of death because it may feel like the fear of not existing in the thing that you've become attached to. I talk a lot about attachment, and there's a lot of mindfulness, Buddhist meditation kind of themes and spiritual aspects to the things we talk about here. And I think denial is kind of like fitting in one of those buckets of being self-aware and being able to examine yourself from an outside perspective. There's this practice in meditation where you sit and you watch your thoughts and you kind of don't judge what the thoughts are that come up, and you allow them to kind of just be birthed, created into the world, and then dissipate as they lose attention and uncreate themselves. And I think this is probably one of the most powerful ways you can escape denial, you can get out of denial, is to look for the cognitive behavioral patterns that continue to repeat themselves on loop, that kind of keep you in a place of stasis, that prevent you from evolving. Because the denial that I've experienced, and I think a lot of denial for other people, is this thought loop that kind of keeps you in a trap. It keeps you locked into a position. Where have you been on your path towards self-acceptance and understanding yourself? What is it that has helped you turn the key to saying, oh, that's what I'm doing here, or this is something that could make me a better person, or wow, I can't believe I haven't seen this and it's been right in front of me the whole time. Do you know what I mean? These are some of the things that these realizations and these experiences where we grow and expand can really help shed light on other areas where we're in denial. Because, denial can happen not just on your identity and who you are as a trans person, but it can also happen in other areas of your life. For example, alcoholism is a really big one for some people. For me, I think where I could be in denial, that's probably a separate topic. I'll just kind of put that on the shelf. But I think there's aspects where I may not fully acknowledge behaviors that aren't really good for me. Like eating potato chips. I don't know. I'm in denial about eating potato chips. No, I love potato chips. I don't really know if there's anything there. But the denial aspect of the thought loop. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. So this is my trans denial thought loop that I started with, which was when I was 11 or 12, I would look in the mirror and go, gee, you'd be a pretty girl, but you weren't born a girl, so oh well. That's it, really simple. And locked within that paradigm is the concept, the implicit concept that if you're not born in the gender that you want to be, then it's just not possible. And there's also within that story this kind of peeping out, this little seed of a plant, of a flower that's trying to blossom. And it's well, you would be really beautiful if you were a girl. And then it kind of gets completely snipped off with, but you weren't born a girl. So there you go, end of story. And if I accept that belief and I accept that paradigm, which I did for quite some time, then I'll always be in denial because there's actually no struggle there. It's just a lock and key system where I just remain locked down by my own view of the world and what's expected. But once you meet a trans person, or once you see other trans people out there in the world, you can at least conceptualize that perhaps that gender, that kind of like expression of being that transgender is possible. But then you have all these other things coupled with that, such as, well, it's dangerous to be trans, or I wouldn't look good if I was trans, or maybe it's too late if I was trans, or no one would accept me if I was trans, or there's all of these stories that we can kind of build up around being trans that can then suddenly make admitting that you're trans dangerous. So even when I knew trans people were out there and I was like, damn, she's pretty hot, I'd like to bang her. Yeah, no, like as a cis guy, I did have sex with some trans girls. I wouldn't say I was a chaser, but I definitely did find them hot. And it wasn't just because their genitals. I guess it's because I knew I was also trans, and that was an unconscious aspect of my own denial, seeking out a connection with something that was already familiar. I did notice in retrospect that I had a good connection with these trans people that I was lovers with, and they seemed to really like me back. And no wonder, because I treated them like humans, and I like guys that treat me like humans too. Or a human. I'm not humans. Anyways, that denial, even though I knew that I could be, that there were attractive examples of trans women, it didn't seem possible to me in my paradigm because, like it would never work for me, or maybe they're just weird, or some other aspect of this storytelling attached to that. It wasn't until I said, you know what, it's worth my time just considering that I might be trans. Like that's the starting point. Like let me give myself, like what if I just give myself some space to explore and try this out? And I think that's how you kind of have to approach getting around some of these things where denial happens, because denial can feel so serious. It wants to block things that are really frightening from you. Like we compartmentize who we are to survive. Like if you were in war, or you had something that where there's serious trauma, your brain has to shut that off and compartmentize that trauma in a way where it basically denies its existence and tries to forget about it, or makes it so inaccessible to you that you can't consciously go there without having something come up that feels a lot more friction. So where was I going with this? Going into these places and denial and okay, well, I've lost where I was going. Oh my God. Denial and self-acceptance and kind of stepping in. And then I was talking about the story of my transition and, opening up to like, what if I just give myself the space to explore this and the space to be able to do this? If you don't make it too serious, it's no longer a threat to your ego. It's sort of like, hey, I'm just going to play with gender, or hey, I'm just going to try these things. And there's no commitments for me in terms of what the expectations or outcomes are going to be. I'm just going to try it out. Hey, ego, don't worry about things. We're still going to be, and this is what I say to myself, I'm still going to be a boy, but I'm just going to try this out because it's fun and I want to play with it. And play is a really powerful method to getting around some of the seriousness that we encounter in our egos, because it's sort of like a space set aside from reality. And I put that in quotes because what is real, but like putting aside like our ego attachments and just experimenting and trying things. And it's no wonder that it's probably the most effective way for kids to learn things, because they get out of the way of who they think they are and just focus on engaging and trying and experimenting things. So taking play into a space where you want to be able to experiment and try things out can really decouple the tension with your sense of self and denial and how it's trying to block you. Now, later in the stages of denial, late stage denial, where you already recognize that you're trans and you accept that you need to do that, but you're still not past yourself in some ways. I think that's kind of like a slightly different nut to crack. So I talk a lot about this in this upcoming guide that I'm going to release. Check that out, by the way, ashleyxadamson.com. I have a little email thing where you can subscribe, so I'll send it to you once it comes out, and you'll hear about it from me. But yes, check that out. But I talk about this in what I'm writing, which is this idea of the gatekeeper, which I'm not sure I'm going to refer to it in the actual writing as the gatekeeper. In the program that I'll release later, it'll be called the gatekeeper. But it's like there's this part of ourselves, essentially, that wants to protect us from the rest of the world. And the way to do that is to not allow the truest version of ourselves to even become a reality, because that's dangerous to ourselves. Does that make sense? Like if you were to say, I am a trans woman or I am a trans man, that would immediately open up your ego to feeling like you're in danger, because now you can get prosecuted for being, like, not legally, but by other people, or you can be made fun of, or you can even be like a victim to your own self-judgment of how you don't look a certain way or you don't fit in a certain way, etc., etc. So, like, even if you may accept that you're trans, you may not completely accept yourself and allow yourself to be how you want to be. I have had personality changes, and some of them have been spontaneous, and other ones of those have been kind of like slowly working in the background, and then suddenly they change. And like, you can't, these things cannot emerge unless you allow yourself the space to kind of grow and expand into these. And you have to kind of like stop the fight. You have to stop the struggle with who you are. There's this attachment thing that we all have, the ego, this attachment to ourselves that grounds us in this ability of being able to survive, which is important, and also protect. When you get into the very, very depths of your core of your being, it becomes a lot harder to kind of grapple with some of these concepts, because you really have to face, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was wrong about this. Can I accept the fact that my mental model of who I think I am is not wrong? I'm right. But in this example, I am wrong. Can I accept that? Can I accept that I'm not always right? Can I accept that sometimes I'm wrong? Can I accept that maybe I've always been wrong about this topic? Can I accept that maybe I'm wrong about the fact that I will be unsafe about being trans or any of these other aspects of the self? Being able to kind of doubt your own doubt gives you another hack around this. So let me summarize, because we just covered a lot of things. I think, like, fun and play is one great way of getting around denial. Another important thing is understanding that denial is going to try and hide things from you, and that, like, the best way to unhide things is to explore, which kind of goes back to that play thing. What else did we cover? Letting go of the self, letting go of the ego, and also, like, allowing doubt to doubt the doubt, and also allowing yourself to kind of, like, let go of always being right, or acknowledging that you could have been wrong. And yeah, I think that's kind of like it. There's probably more in there. I always freestyle these, so, like, let me know if there's any more thoughts or any more questions or anything else you'd like to see around this. And thanks for joining me today. I love you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.